Hello everybody, welcome back to the British Pokemon League. We are here with the Season 5 Championship Division team preview. Usually it is down to Mr. T. Marshall and Crizzlecoat to go through these team previews. You've got my ugly mug to deal with this time round, and I've also got a special guest with me as well. A player from the Championship Division is of course Mr. Dogzie-san. Dogzie, hello.
Hello, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good. Glad to have you. Are you excited to get going in the championship this season?
Oh, I wouldn't say excited to go in the championship because I'm still a bit heartbroken from last season, but excited for the season in general and looking forward to see what the season has to come. Always love playing in this draft league.
No, appreciate it, and hopefully we can get you back promoted at the first time of asking and get you back to the promised land.
Yeah, I'm definitely fired up, so let's see what happens.
Right, well, we're gonna just run through all 12 of the teams. We've moved up in the Championship Division. We've moved up from 8 teams to 12 teams. We've got a lot of new additions, so we'll go through them and let you know who's new and who's what. Some of the team names and things haven't quite updated on the website yet that we're going to use to scroll through, but we'll just keep you in the loop with that. Well, let's get to the first team then, which is of course the Altered Aegis Slashers, which is coached by SS Slimy. I think we're just saying Slimy. Probably butchering
Slimy, yeah.
butchering the hell out of that. You can look straight away at this team and notice there's a bit of a running theme.
Mono Ice.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a mono ice team. We had mono steel in the Premier Division last season with Matrix, and now we've got ourselves a mono ice team in the Championship Division. I believe Slimy said that he's played a mono ice before and had decent success with it. So it's someone who sort of knows, how this team in general sort of works. I would say he's probably used a good chunk of these mons before, so he's going to be pretty familiar with them. But coachability aside, what do you sort of see when you first look at this team, Dogsy? What stands out to you as like the big selling points, and what's like the major? Well, we don't really need to say major weaknesses. I think they're a bit obvious.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a scary team. There's a lot of synergy, with bringing the hail and then Pokemon like Slush Rush. So there's definitely a lot of weather control on this team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And whilst it's ice, he's got a good diversity of ice Pokemon. So he's got the ice and grass with a Bomber Snow, got the ice and dark with a Weavile, ice and fairy with Ninetales, Alola. So it's got a very strong mix there. So it's a very interesting team for sure.
Yeah,
And I think he's got a lot of good coverage as well.
I was gonna say you've got a lot of like type coverage in there. Like obviously there's all ice, but you've got like electric, ghost, ground, fairy. I think like you've almost got the sort of has he got the core, the grass, water? Obviously one of the fire, so no, he hasn't really got the grass, water, fire core, but more or
No.
less it is just about there. And he's obviously got his steel typing and sun slash laws. There's a few 4 times weaknesses going on in there as well, I think. Weavile with the 4 times weak to fighting, Sand slash Alola, the 4 times weak to fire.
He does, but he's also got the resistance to ice.
Oh yeah, exactly. He's like completely resistant to ice, which is nice to have. I think like the only downside is like with any hail team is with like sun and rain and sand. Obviously they give some sort of buff, whereas hail, outside of activating like Slush Rush, and allowing Auroraville to go up, it's not really giving your Pokemon any benefit. But that's not a sort of take away from the team in any way. I think it probably is one of the weaker weather modes, but I think that's what makes the team just so scary because
It probably is, but I mean, definitely, like you said, Slimy has used the team before, and I wouldn't negate that experience
no,
or anything,
exactly.
to be honest.
You definitely can't underestimate him or underestimate this team. I think it's something people do a lot of the times with monotype, and a monotype is you have to have a lot of variation outside of just the one type you're going for, and that's what makes it so annoying to deal with. Obviously we saw with Matrix's team last season that you had some of the mons in there that were they were steel typing, but they got so much coverage moves that it still made them quite a scary prospect. And you've got the same sort of thing here, Arctazol, obviously with the electric ice, I believe Arctazol gets high horsepower as well.
It does.
Then like Dam Galar gets a crazy amount of coverage moves. You've got like
Damn, Galar's a beast.
yeah,
It's
you've
so
got
scary.
EQ, Rock Slide, Superpower, I want to say.
It does, yeah.
Obviously, Ice Shard as well. I think Psychic Move as well. I want to say it off the top of my head.
Yeah, it does. It
I could
does.
be wrong. Yeah.
It also gets belly drum, to be honest.
It
For that
just get
attack boost.
yeah. And then you've got Mr. Rhyme in there, which is like quite a little trick room setter, fake out support there as well, and screen cleaner, which is an amusing ability to have.
It's both a screen setter as well as a screen destroyer.
Yeah,
So.
and I really like the Crabominable pick. I think for some odd reason that out of all of them is my favourite, just purely because of anger point. Like you've got so many mons there that have frost breath.
I was going to say the same. I mean, look, he's got the anger point, the base attack of 132. You also got the other abilities like Iron Fist and Hypercutter. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what Crabominable has for us in store this season.
Yeah, definitely. If he's able to maybe get Trick Room going and activate that Crabominable's anger point, I think you're going to see a few sweeps from that thing because 132 base attack. So there's a lot of heavy physical attacking threat on this team. Not too much special attack, outside of Mr. Rhyme and like Abominable Snow, but of course Arctazalt as well gets Bolt Beak, which is going to double in power if it moves first. So while it might not look like the 100 base physical attack is too much, that's a move in itself that's going to hit really hard. You've got like Crabominable, Weavile, Mamoswine, Dam Galar, all with 110 plus physical attack, which is just
definitely
terrifying.
I mean, the team pretty much has everything. I mean, it's got some form of speed control with the Trick Room from Mr. Rhyme. Frostlass and Mr. Rhyme also get ally switch, so for the redirect. Obviously you've got the abilities, the weather, so there's a lot to watch out for in this team.
Yeah, definitely. So with that in mind, it's not something we usually do, but we're going to do some predictions for this season. So 1st to 12th, whereabouts do you see Slimy in his Altered Age / is finishing this season? Obviously, it's his debut season with us.
I would have originally probably said midpoint, but I do remember how good Matrix was last season with the Mono Steel.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a strong contender this season. I'm going to guess probably around maybe 3rd or 4th is my guess, to be honest.
4th. I'll put down 4th. I'm gonna sort of go with what your original one was about middle of the pack 6th. Of course, like the top 6 make playoffs, so I still think this is a good enough team to make the relegation playoffs. But I think 6th for me is probably where I would plonk it. I don't doubt that the team's going to be good, but I think Matrix found a few times last season, there's just some matches where you're just not going to have a good matchup. And there's not really too much you can do about that, and you just got to try and make the best of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is the definite weakness on the team, like I said, but it's got so much coverage as well. I'm not going to knock Slimy out, to be honest. I'm expecting good things from Slimy this season.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to team numero 2, which is the ChunLispins, coached by Chikaretin.
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't even. I have no clue how to say his name. I just call him Chick, and we just roll with it. But yeah, ChunLispins came on over from the WPL, so we've got another refugee. Has drafted some really, really strong Pokemon. I mean, straight away, like for me, seeing like Rillaboom and Cinderace, you've got 2 of the like starters from Gen 8 that are just so strong. We've seen Latvian put Cinderace to great use in previous seasons and formats. And Jirachi as well is not one to sort of shake head at. The mythical with 100 base stats, and also gets Follow Me as well, which is a bit terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying, so broken.
Yeah. And obviously you get Serene Grace as well, which allows for some amusing ancient power shenanigans if you wanted to go down that route. But what are your initial thoughts looking at this team then? So there's quite a sort of variation of mons and types there, and I think he's put together quite a strong balanced
I would
team.
say it's an extremely strong and balanced team. I mean, he's got a good spread of weaknesses and resistance. He doesn't really have many weaknesses, to be honest.
I'll scroll down.
But also, he's got a lot of resistance with his team. He's put together a very strong and well thought out team. But I mean, seeing as you've mentioned WPL, I wasn't going to say it before, but Sikaretin went undefeated in the WPL and also in another draft league as well, which I've seen them playing, I should say even. They went undefeated in the main season as well. So they are a very strong player. I'm expecting good things. They've built together a very good team as well. So I'm really not sure going to expect to contend against this strong team here. But at the same time, it will be interesting to see how they play it.
Yeah, yeah. I think the one thing I will sort of say is that it's a little bit physically top heavy. Um, Outside of, I mean, Milotic's not really going to be a special sweeper. I know Chick has a lot of experience using Milotic, so I know he's going to know how to get the best out of it. But outside of that, really, like Jirachi is your best special attacker. I'm not sure whether Altaria, when it megas, gets any sort of major boost to its special attack, but just physical attacking threat on its own is pretty terrifying. Gallade, with its 125 base attack, but obviously that can mega. Like potentially that paired with a follow me Jirachi if it gets a sword stance off. I think the mega gets 165 base attack, and
Wow.
does it in a focus as well. So like it is stupid good. The mega Gallade.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very fast, hard-hitting team, like you said. It is very physical, but someone's going to have to make a good opportunity to drop the Intimidate or the, Will-O-Wisp or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you dare bring out an Intimidate when you've got something like Melodic there?
Yeah.
Can you really bring out a Will-O-Wisp as well? These are the sort of things you have to consider. Yes, it is very physical heavy, but people are going to have to play around that really well in order to sort of, put Sikaretin at a disadvantage, really.
Yeah, and I think Chick will sort of know that people are going to notice that, and there's potential for him to run a special set on something or try with a choice specs or even something crazy like a policy on something with like reasonably good special attack. So I think there's my only negative point I would give really is that there's, as you mentioned there about the speed, it's so like fast. Like everything has probably like an average of like 100 speed, outside of Piloswine, Porygon, and like your Mandibuzz and Altaria and stuff. Everything is really, really quick. I know Rillaboom's not massively fast, but obviously you've got like Grassy Glide priority move there as well. So I think that would be my only thing I would say is I think he's gonna have to try and play around Trick Room, but from what you told me about Chick, and sort of what we know about as a player, I think he's going to be more than capable to sort of play around that. So yeah, as you said before, expecting some big things.
I think they're going to be able to really anticipate what their opponents are bringing. They've also got counter Trick Rooms with the likes of Porygon, Jirachi, and even Gallade. They've got the Tailwind with Mandibuzz. Not that it necessarily needs it with how fast the team is, but
No.
If it does, it's got there. It's got a lot of redirection, a lot of priority moves, with the Grassy Glide, the Fake Out. There's so much happening with this team. So it will be very interesting to see how they utilize it, and you're really going to have to prepare well if you want to take down Sick here.
Yeah, exactly. And as he's a strong player, he's put together a strong team, and there's just so much like coverage for stuff. As you said about the Intimidate, just one thing that I sort of picked up there is obviously you've got competitive on Milotic, and I think just the potential to proc competitive can sometimes sway people away from bringing Intim or bringing any kind of stat drop. And then another sort of, I think, big ability on one of his Pokemon there is Libero and Cinderace. We've seen just how well that can go. Excuse me, if it's activated correctly and used correctly as well. As we mentioned earlier, Latvian really got the best out of that thing. So, I'm very excited to see what this team could do. So predictions, Mr. Dogzie, where are we expecting Chick to?
I'm going to be very biased here, based off other leagues. I'm going to put Sick right at the top.
You put him first.
I'm going to put Sick at top first. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's
put him on the pedestal already.
Yeah, it's really inflating that ego there. I'm gonna go.
That's just there for someone to take him down now. That's
the
thing. I'm inflating it. Someone else's job to bring him down.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go more or less the same now. I'm gonna say second. I think this is like a top two player, top two team. And I think he understands that if all had went well in the promotion tournament, if he'd been able to sort of be more available, he maybe would have took the promotion spot from Damaris. So he's going to be. I know he's going to want to play in the top division with the best players. Not that the best players aren't in the championship division. We've got two very, very competitive divisions this season, but he's going to be
Yeah,
pushing
exactly.
hard.
I mean, with so many new players in both divisions, it's very scary to be in either division. To be honest.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to make the prospect of dropping even more terrifying. But yeah, let's move on to our third team then. Previously known as Feisty Phalanx, but this season Jen here has gone for the team name of PSV after the whoopsie-daisy, just get that lined up, after the football team PSV Eindhoven.
Oh, nice.
I'm not too sure what the E bit is in in the name, but PSV is what we're going with. It's just easier to pronounce. But yeah, Jenna, another one, our third new player that we're covering here. Heard a lot of good things about her. From I think plays in WPL. She's played in leagues with Crizzle before as well, one of our Premier Division players.
I played Jenna last season in WPL. They played very well. They also had a very strong season there as well. So definitely not one to undermine at all.
No, absolutely not. And I think the first thing I point out here is just how many S tiers there is.
It's very S heavy.
It's unusual to see more than two. Well, it's unusual to see two S tiers sometimes in a lot of teams, but like to see three is a bit crackers. I think that's maybe sort of what's the phrase? Sort of as backed her into a corner a bit in terms of building the rest of the team. However, just the B and C tier, or B and sort of D tier picks she's went with, I think probably are one of the stronger sets of muns from those tiers. You've got a lot of synergy going on here as well. You've got Ninetales, which synergizes with the Blossom with that chlorophyll, or you've got Heliolisk with that solar power as well.
I mean, there's a lot of synergy on this team, like you said. So ultimately, it will be interesting. I mean, they got the priority moves with the Incineroar with the fake out to drop the attack stats, unless you're obviously against sick. Incin will be a nuisance this season. I'm sure we've seen Dave use it as well. You've got the synergy with Ninetales and Blossom, as you said. Oricorio, we saw City use it in the previous season. And obviously, they've got a lot of redirection with the Ally Switch, Rage Powder, Tailwind. There's a lot of things to think about with this team. So it will be interesting to see what they put together as well. Again, like Sikaretin, they've built quite a widespread of resistances across the board. Very few weaknesses, and there's not one overlying weakness, that all of their mons need to worry about, really.
There's a couple of reds there, but there's so many resistances across the board that I think she's got plenty of switch-ins there to sort of deal with those those weaknesses. It's a very, very balanced team just looking at the total stats. Obviously you've got Dragapult, which is, I think that's kind of like it's in its own little box really, isn't it, in terms of speed, because it's one of the fastest Pokemon in the game. Everything else is more or less a good average. And I said Blossom, Outsider's Sun is going to work in those slower speeds, but with Chlorophyll you can also run a fast version of Blossom as well. And yeah, you've got a few different weather modes as well. You've got Sandaconda, which can activate that sand, which is going to also synergize with Heliolisk. And as we saw last season and previous seasons when people have brought Ash through single strike as well, just that ability to hit through protect, it really backs your opponent into a corner and it makes it quite difficult to deal with.
Yeah, especially in a non-DMAX format. So it's definitely a scary one to go up against.
Yeah, it really, and like that thing is more 9 times out of 10 going to run a focus session. That just makes it means you've either got to hit double spread moves or you've got to double into that thing, and that allows whatever sat next to it to sort of do what it wants to do. I think there's a few sort of I don't want to say meme picks, but sort of off the cuff picks. Would you say? I said the Oricorio obviously gets the dancer ability, which can pair really well with like Quiver Dance on something like the Blossom, and then Octillery as well. We've seen many times over the last 2 years with the Moody Boost, and of course that can go wrong. It can go the opposite way, but you get the right moody boosts there, and you're looking really, really good.
Well, it's as you said before. I mean, the team has a lot of S tier mons that you'd more than you'd expect, but at the same time,
Mhm.
it's also got a lot of D tier mons. So you kind of have to wonder, was that sort of compensating for points, or is there really a strategy behind it?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I definitely see what you're saying there. Yeah, because stat wise, them DTM ones aren't amazing. Vivillon is essentially going to just take a hit and go down if it's not got sash. It's just so defensively weak. Um, and Santa Conda as well with pretty low special defense and not a crazy amount of HP. They're obviously decent physical defense, but yeah, I think there's a good mix just right across the board with that team. Um, and there's some really exciting ones. We've not really seen Heliolisk or Blossom used before. Corviknight, I think maybe has been used once before.
Corviknight has been used, I
I
think.
think the great Mr. Hop was the last to sort of utilize that and didn't really go very well. So it'll be interesting to see how well Corviknight works outside of a Dynamax and outside of a singles format.
Definitely, yeah. It's a very bulky Pokemon though, so unless you've got
Yeah,
the super effective attacks for it, which again you have to worry about with the rest of the team with the switch-ins, then you have to come really well prepared to deal with this team.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, you've got some heavy prep to go down, and yeah, she's going to be a difficult customer, I think, believe this season. With that said, where are we guessing sort of Jenny is going to finish in her first season? We sort of aiming.
I try not to do this, but again, there's some bias because I know how much of a good player Jenny is,
Mhm.
but also the team is really well spread out. So I'm going to put Jenny in the number 2 spot
Number two.
after Cigarette and
Well, very high praise there. Love to see it. Um, I can't speak to any bias because I don't really know how she plays, but just like judging by the team, just those three S tiers are just so scary. And then when you've got the rest of the team sort of building, I'm going to put her in fourth position. I think.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's not to take anything away from her. I think she's going to be a very solid player. Um, I think potentially just those low tier picks or an auxiliary boost not going away, just a few different factors may affect a few games this season. And
I agree. However, you have to get through those S tiers before you see the lower
oh
tiers.
yeah, 100%.
That's all
Yeah,
I'm saying. So,
yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna pop fourth position as my prediction. I do want to just to reiterate before we move on to any of the players watching, these are just our humble opinions. I don't know Pokemon. I just happen to run this league, so please don't take any of these opinions to heart. If anything, if you're not happy with it, just try and prove us wrong.
yeah, definitely. Let's just have fun this season, and these predictions are just a bit of fun and game, and it's yours to prove us wrong.
Yeah, exactly. On our next team, then, it is another newbie. It is the Georgia Grand Bulldogs and Esquire. Someone who's came over from the UGA. We've got another UGA refugee.
Okay. I did wonder where we picked this one up from.
That tends to be what happens. People arrive and be like, "Where have they came from? Where are they going?" Um, just looking at this, I don't know what to think of it. It's a really interesting team. I feel like
There's a
we're
lot.
saying that a lot, but like one thing that sort of jumps out to me is it's the first team we've looked at so far that's of course got a Hisuian month. Of course, this season we are using the Hisui decks along with the national decks and megas etc. So Esquire has picked up Gudra Hisui, which them defensive stats, especially special defense, is
Look at that
genuinely
special defense. That is crazy.
insane.
150.
100
Wow.
and like 80 HP, which is like pretty decent. To go with Overcoat and Sapsipper as well, like wow, a Steel Dragon. So I believe just fighting and ground type.
Yep.
Weakness, yeah.
It's lost the dragon
Fairy,
type weakness
yeah, and Fairy. So
and
it's
fairy too. Yeah.
so that on in its own, I think, is going to be able to do bits for Esquire this season. Under Trick Room, I think something like the Araquanid as well could really be activated well on this team.
Araquanid is such a good Pokemon in the right situation.
And
Like you said, it's got wide guard. It hits very hard. It's hard to take down as well. So if you can get it in Trick Room or the right speed control for yourself, I think this is definitely going to be one to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, sort of as a whole, there's a pretty good balance. The special defense stats overall are just, I mean, there's not many times you get a total that's above 1,000. Um, so the
Oh
fact
wow,
that's
yeah, I've
so
just noticed that
high
now.
is
That is crazy.
absolutely mental. Um, and yeah, I think a bit like Jenna's team, there's like quite a good mix of speeds there as well, and various levels of speed control. Um, you've got Luminion, which gets Tailwind for whatever God unknown's reason, and of course Storm Drain as well, and Swift Swim. Um, so I
Yeah,
think
some
Rain
interesting.
is going to really, really benefit this team a lot. Araquanid with Water Bubble and Life Orb, which I think we've seen in many VGC formats. This thing can like just go crazy. And
Yeah, some interesting abilities. Good synergy again. Dog Trio is an interesting one as well with the arena trap. So it will be interesting to see how Esquire plays it this season.
yeah,
I noticed that Esquire only went with the one S, but there's a lot more balance throughout the other tiers
yeah, there's a lot
as
more
well.
tiered balance. Yeah.
So
Um,
I feel like they've given a lot of thought into their team. I don't know them that well as a player. Like you said, they've come from the
no, me
UGA,
neither.
but they've got good speed control for both Tailwind, Trick Room. They've got the redirections. A lot of ones with Ally Switch if they chose to use that. They've got screens, a lot of hard hitters, a lot of special defense, like you said. It is a very difficult team to plan again against. I know I've said it for the last two, or last three even, but it does look like a very interesting and unique team to me.
Absolutely. You've got like two variants of like trapping as well. He's already said about the range trapping Dug Trio because Mega Gengar um, gets a very similar ability that
Oh
his
yeah,
name is escaping me.
uh, sorry, it's escaped me as well. I will come back to it in a minute, but I'm trying to think now. It's
I can't remember either.
yeah, I really can't remember. Apologies. Shadow Tag, that's the one.
Shadow Tag. There we go.
Shadow Tag, yeah. I
I
was
just
trying to
could
remember
not
because I know,
remember.
yeah, Gothitelle gets it,
The
but yeah,
same.
as a mega, it's so broken as a mega. I mean, we saw Latvian use it last season. Even hitting it with the dark types didn't necessarily take it out. It's quite bulky there as a mega.
Yeah, and his
Uh,
special attack is just crazy, and again, like a few of the those high tier Megamons, they get such a broad range of attacks. Like you've got your ghost type and poison type moves, like two stab types, but Gengar also gets energy ball as well, which is just you know, did it
yeah,
really need it? Like it's just insane.
it's got such a good move pool for something that you're going to have to come out and hit it well. I mean, it's got Focus Blast, the Energy Ball,
Mm,
the Poison type attacks, like you said, the Ghost type. So
yeah.
I'm expecting good things of
Y-
Gengar. We
y-
saw how well Lat utilized it last
Yeah,
season.
exactly. You've got to bring something to do as well because if you lead incorrectly in this thing megas and it's got you stuck in, there's potentially one or two of your mons just gone straight away if you just can't manage to hit this thing and it could get Perish sung off. You're in big doo doos. If Esquire is able to sort of play around that, and I think the team on a whole is just so bulky that it could probably tank some hits and to enable Perish song to sort of to work. So I think that's one good thing that it's got going for it for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I was gonna say it does have Tailwind, does have Trick Room as well. I mean, looking at the type matchups as well. Again, you've got a really good balance there. There's only really Rock type that's like probably the major one with four weaknesses, but also you've got three resists, which is like really really good.
Yeah, Rock and Flying are the biggest
Flying,
the biggest weaknesses. However, there's a lot of resists across the board. I
yeah,
mean, look at Gudra, for example. Unless you're coming
yeah.
out with a fighting or ground type Pokemon,
There's
move, you're going to
no,
struggle.
there's not a lot
Again,
that can hit.
Emolga, it's got the immunity to electric. It's got so many resists there. Ice and Rock are the two times weakness. It's going to be very difficult to tank a lot of these Pokemon, to be
Yeah,
honest.
absolutely. Um, yeah, I think if Esquire is able to pilot this thing correctly, I think there is a lot of moving parts that might make it a bit difficult to sort of manage. I think having the following Clefable definitely helps. I don't want to say the team's one-dimensional because it definitely isn't, but I think potentially could get caught out with a certain few strats. If he's going to bring Perisong and the opponent is prepared very well for that, then you could find yourself in a bit of a tiz. But I think that's all situational. That's not so much major negatives to the team. But,
Of course, yeah.
But with all that being said, where are we going to predict Esquire and the Georgia Grand Bulldogs this season? Obviously, again, another debutant.
I am going to put them probably where I'm going to put them as a qualifier, so I'm going to put the lower half. I'm going to put mid-table 6th.
You're going to put them 6th, yeah?
Yeah, I think they've got a very strong team, but like you said, there's a lot of moving parts, and they have to really play it and pilot it well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go more or less the same. I'm going to put it 5th. I think the team is definitely good enough to make playoffs. As I said, I don't know too much about Esquire, but he comes pretty highly recommended from Mr. T. Marshall. So, who are we to not trust our 2 times champion?
Exactly. I mean, if Aaron T. Marshall of the British Pokemon League is recommending someone, we need to watch out.
Definitely. On to our next team then. It is Jabba and his Knight of Sidonia. Jabba into his third season. Third season with us. Yeah, which is crazy to me.
Sorry, it is 4th season.
It is, yeah. I was going to say
he joined in season 2, and we're now in season 5. So yeah, 4th.
4th season. It feels like he's been here like since the beginning of time. It just kind of sort of like gets swept under the rug. One thing I will, before we sort of look at the team, I think Jabba comes. A lot of people tend to write off Jabba pretty quickly, but I think he sort of came away from last season with a lot of credit. I think the first half of the season for him didn't go particularly as planned, but then once he made the switch to Deoxys defense, he just ramped it up a gear. He only really lost to like the teams in the top 3, top 4. Which were teams he needed to get the win. So he only narrowly missed out on the relegation playoffs. That being said,
he came very close. I mean, he actually did turn it around, like you said. I mean, a lot of his losses were early on as well. So even though he lost to the higher level teams, not necessarily better, but those losses came earlier. You kind of have to wonder if he'd pivoted it a bit different or played it a bit different early on. Things could have gone differently for him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do like the look of this team. It's got really, really good bounces, really good resistances across the board as well. The only like major ones is like Ghost weakness. There's only 1 resist there in Houndoom, and Fairy as well. There's only the 1 resistance Steelix and 2 weaknesses. However, you've got some Deoxys defense just straight off the bat is just nuts, and when you've got Meowstic sat there with Skill Swap Prankster potentially available, that becomes a really, really terrifying duo to face up against. I mean, they've got...
Does it get rest? I think it gets rest.
It gets rest. Yes, you could be having Prankster rests and Prankster amnesia and things going off.
All sorts of shenanigans
which
there.
Becomes
it's
crazy.
A bit
terrifying. So I think people are definitely going to have to be watching for that and keeping an eye on that. And, he's picked up the Houndoom again as well, which... there's no Droughtmon, which I think is a bit of a shame in this team. I think really if having that Droughtmon there would have been perfect. I know he's got Sunny Day on Riolu, but obviously you're at a risk with a fake out there. But he's got a lot of mons that are familiar to him. He had Shellos last season, Tornadus, Deoxys defense, as we said, which I think it can pay to sort of switch things up, but also at the same time. Obviously the quality in this division's picked up, and I think Jabba going for some comfort picks I think is probably better for him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, does Riolu also get like quick guard? I think maybe.
Gets quick guard, coaching. Obviously, Sunny Day, Rain Dance as well. So you've got Rain Dance, which can work really well with Swift Swim on Huntail. Is it Huntail or is it Gorbis that gets the baton pass? There's one of them that gets like one of the best baton pass mons in the game. I want to say it's...
I'd be lying if I said I knew, to be honest. But
I want to say it's the other one, but if it is Huntail, sorry, then that is potentially a really good pick.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of dynamics with this team, like you said. I'm gonna have to look up where the Huntail does. It looks like a very cool Pokemon. To be honest.
It really does look cool. With Sholos, I mean, I think he's maybe just trying to pack out those low tier picks and just having access to Storm Drain. I'm not overly certain the team needed Storm Drain, to be honest, outside of maybe Houndoom. But it is a really strong pick, and Shellos gets more or less the same moves as Gastrodon, so you've got potential of Yawn shenanigans and things like that in there. So definitely not one to sort of
Water type. It's only a water type though this time. I guess you could stick an Eviolite on it, but only having the single typing, it doesn't get the same sort of resist that Gastrodon does.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, pretty good balance across the board in terms of stats.
Yep, definitely.
The only thing I will say is not like massively heavy special attack, more physical attack heavy, but I think probably Haxorus does a little bit to imbalance that with the 147 base physical attack. So I don't think anyone's picked Haxorus yet up to now, so it'd be really interesting to see whether Jabba can get a lot out of Haxorus.
It is an interesting pick for sure, like you said. Also, Jabba's team has a lot of speed control. It's got the Trick Room, it's got the Tailwind, it has a lot of the redirection.
Yeah, he's got Fake Out in there as well with Meowstick and Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime as well, obviously getting Fake Out, Follow Me, Wide Guard as well. So he's got a lot of support moves there that can work really well around his sweeper mons. That's maybe the major like overarching negative that I would sort of say for the team, and that's not a shoot down Jabba, because I think this is a one up on his team last season. There is a lot of support here. What do you think?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the downside with my season 2 team. I think it was where I thought, okay, go support heavy, with some heavy hitters, and it looks like Jabba's done that as well. The downside is once your heavy hitters go, what do you do then?
Yeah, what have you sort of got to sort of do the sweeping? So I think if it was maybe to bring one or two supports like per game, not like overstack it with support Pokemon, then you might be okay. But you've got to really be picky and choosy which ones you're gonna bring. But 3 prankster Pokemon is genuinely insane.
He just kept them all for himself.
Yeah, he's just hoarded all of the prankster Pokemon. But yeah, I definitely agree. This is a one up on previous teams from Jabba, and I'm very excited to see what he can do this season. So, whereabouts are we expecting Jabba to finish this season, Dogsy?
Well, seeing as we've got 6 people that can make the relegation playoffs, I do rate Jabba, and I think he will make relegation playoffs.
Yeah.
Don't see him necessarily going too high up the table either, though. I'm going to put him around 5th, to be honest. Primarily because his team is interesting, but he has too much support heavy on it. Similarly, the way Jabba's played it in the past, he really has to consider, his moves beforehand. And if he does that, he could go quite far. But for now, I think maybe middle of the table.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, I really want him to make playoffs. I do think he's going to just miss out and going to be around the sort of 7th or 8th mark, so I'm going to put 8th place. Again, that's no shade on Jabba. I think he is steadily improving, but just purely because of the level of competition that's sort of bumped up in the championship, I think he might find it a little bit of a challenge. But I'd absolutely love him.
I'm rooting for you.
I'd absolutely love him to prove me wrong and make playoffs. I really would. He's a good lad, Jabba. Anyway, on to our next team then. It is Haysodge. Haysodge's team name I don't think has been confirmed yet, but we'll go with Marvelous Macros for now. This is probably my favourite team. Out of all, I really like this team a lot. You've got the redirection there with Togekiss, and Togekiss obviously is a little bit of a Swiss Army knife in terms of what it could do. You've got Serene Grace and Super Luck. Both really good abilities, and of course is quite tanky. Bronzong as well. I mean, we saw Mr. T Marshall getting the very best out of Bronzong, which is. If you don't taunt this thing or deal with it, it's going to get a Trick Room off, and you let it get iron defenses up. It's
especially with its ability to levitate as well. Yeah. It negates certain weaknesses again.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got the Arcanine there as well, which not only could he potentially run beat up Justified on Arcanine if you want to. I'm not too sure if anything on there gets beat up. I want to say Dugtree or Lola does, but if you want to go that route, he could. But Intim is just going to be so useful. To keep those heavy hitters going. But go on, sorry.
And Will-O-Wisp.
Yeah,
There are a lot
Will-O-Wisp.
of physical teams, as we just discussed earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
A few teams which were very physical heavy.
Some teams where Intim's not going to be overly great, but having that opportunity to Will-O-Wisp is going to be, really, really good. And Arcanine's reasonably fast as well. But the main sort of star of the show, and Ursaluna, this was like very high up in a lot of people's wish lists when we were drafting, and Haysod just managed to get it.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. Was it picked early on? Because I know in the playoffs, it was a very strong contender, in the playoff qualifiers.
Yeah. It's obviously, it's not only has got like 130 base HP, 140 base attack, but it gets guts. So you potentially stab facades like with the guts boost is gonna just hit like an absolute truck.
Plus, with it being a slow mon, you know that you can put a lot of bulk into it rather than speed.
You can just EV it to where you've got minus in the speed and just hire a load of EVs into the bulk and your physical attack, and my god, it's going to be a very, very strong Pokemon. Yeah, and you've got really good sort of good base stats across the board as well. A good amount of difference. You've got sort of Trick Room modes, but you've also got fast modes there as well. You've got Sceptile that can Mega. You got Electrode, which is just stupidly fast. You've got Volbeat, which has Tailwind as well, which Prankster Tailwind, which is always good to have. And just sort of looking at the weaknesses, that there is only one red in his type matchup, which is Rock type, but he's also got three resists.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think this is a really, really well balanced team, and just from what I've been told about for Haysod from Kirky, one of our Premier Division players, he is quite highly rated, and I think you said to me as well that he won the league that Chick went unbeaten in the regular season as well.
Losing to Haysod twice,
yeah,
but he also won the WCA, which is Neil's draft league.
That's the one.
So it came to second Haysod in the finals, and Haysod managed to get the win, which was brilliant for him.
Yeah, so obviously outside of TBPL, these players are pretty highly rated and have a history of winning. I said I do really rate this team. What are your thoughts about the team as a whole?
I mean, it is a very interesting team. Like you said, you got the Togekiss, which hits hard. It's got good support with Tailwind, Follow Me. Ursaluna is a beast. I absolutely love that thing. The Bronzong is going to be very scary. I think, like you said, it's very well balanced. It's got a lot of heavy hitters, but also good support. It's not too top heavy or support heavy either. Mm-hmm. And I can definitely see Haysod as a top contender for promotion.
Yeah,
within the top 3 spots. Seeing as I've already given Sick and Gen A the top 2, I'm going to put Haysod in third.
You're going to put Haysod third? I'll just put Haysod down rather than the team name. So you said third. One thing I wanted to say just before I make my prediction is my only, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the only fake out user there is Squirtle, which I don't think you really, really want as your fake out user. I know he's got plenty of redirection anyway, but I think having a fake out one can just be really, it can be very, very valuable. Not only are you getting a flinch chance, but you're sort of negating the damage that one mon can do, rather than, you've hit Follow Me, but now my mon's taking 2 amount of hits. That would be the only detracting point I would say to the team. But
I mean, Dugong actually gets fake out. I've just had a look.
Oh, does it really? Oh well, I've just ate my words there. But there's 2 D tiers that get fake out. I will say Dugong stats aren't exactly anything to write home about. So, even Squirtle with an Eviolite, I don't think it's going to be phenomenal. But yeah, that would be the only detracting points. But in terms of my prediction, I'm reckoning Haysod to win the whole thing. Yeah, I'm putting him in the top spot. Giving him pretty high praise there, so no pressure here, Sodge.
All the pressure now, because Matt Starr of the British Pokemon just predicted it, so shall it be said, so shall it be done.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, very much looking forward to seeing this team go ahead. On to our next team then, is another newcomer. We've got lots of newcomers in the championship this season.
Yeah.
It is the Polytoad Belly Drummers, coached by Encore VGC. Now, from what Meme told me about Encore is very, very new to Draft League. He's never played Draft before, but is quite a high skilled VGC player.
Yeah, I love this team, to be honest. This is actually one of my favorite teams.
Yeah. I mean, talk me through it. What do you like about this team?
I think that you've got, well, firstly, you've got Rain on it with, you've got the Ludicolo, obviously with the fake out, the Rain support from Politoed,
Yeah.
Politoed's access to Belly Drum, got Theatel to trap its opponents with the Shadow Tag, Talonflame, which brings out the speed control with the Tailwind. There's so much going on with it, you know what I mean? So, Encore might not be an experienced draft player. However, they've definitely taken on their strength from knowing VGC over the years. To bring out a very heavy-hitting team. I also love the fact that they brought on Alolan Muck, with Power of Alchemy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Do you know what? I don't know anything about Alola Muck or what it does. I like how it looks. What does Power of Alchemy do again?
I believe it takes on the allies' ability if it's fainted beforehand.
Oh wow, okay.
If I'm not mistaken, so I think it's sort of similar to Receiver.
I was going to say it's like Receiver on Persimmon.
Yes, exactly. I'm pretty sure it's the equivalent
really cool.
of that.
Yeah. But yeah, as you said, there's so much going on here. I mean, Shedinja just as the one of the DTs. If you're not properly prepared for that thing, could just really catch out a lot of people. But you've got Chlorophyll and Sapsipper on Sawsbuck. As we said about the Mukaloli, you've got that there. You've got Guts and Intimidate on Luxray. So you've got, Luxray is a really strong C tier pick there as well. 120 base attack. And Nidoking as well, we saw do really good things for the Toronto Six last season, Jay.
Nidoking is a very hard-hitting Pokemon as well.
Absolutely, and we already mentioned about the speed control. You've got the Tailwind on Talonflame, but also I believe Gothitelle gets Trick Room as well.
It does get Trick Room, yes.
You've got both elements of speed control there. Yes, the team as a whole isn't like overly fast, but just you've got Talonflame there with the Tailwind, and because there's a lot of slow ones there, it's going to work really well under Trick Room, and the Perish Song potential here as well. Potential to catch people out is really good. One thing I will say is, and it's no what's the word? It's not really shooting Encore down. It's a very VGC team to me, if you know what I mean.
It is.
It like looking at it, it's like, man, it's like I'm looking at like a Series 6 or Series 7 team with like a few Sun and Moon early gen Pokemon thrown in there as well. It's a very, very interesting lineup, and I mean, if we look at the type matchups, there is a bit of a ground problem going on. Yes, he's got the 4 resists, but just sort of there's a big chunk of ground weakness there. But otherwise, you've got some really, really good amount of resistances. Even where there's a 4 times weakness, you've got 2 rock resists there as well, and not too many neutrals. So despite it being his first draft, he's put together a really, really strong team.
It is an interesting spread, like you said, with the weaknesses. I mean, ground is his main strong weakness. Sorry, not strong weakness, but his biggest weakness. However, everything else there is covered relatively well, I would say.
Exactly. And we mentioned about the abilities. There's so much potential there with different abilities. The Mawile and its Mega as well, getting huge power is very scary. He's already got quite good base physical attack across the board, and under Trick Room that could get quite terrifying quite quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the team does have a good balance of speed, not just with speed control, but with the Tailwind, it's got the right Pokemon that can go a lot quicker. With Trick Room, it's got just enough reduction of speed that his team could potentially be the slowest. Exactly. So I think it is definitely one to watch out for.
Yeah, he's got
albeit, like you said, a VGC style team.
It really is. And you've got a few mons that can get Icy Wind there as well, and various of the stat drop moves that I think that are really sort of gel well with the other Pokemon. But that being said, whereabouts are we expecting Encore to finish up this season then?
I've not made notes, but if I'm not mistaken, I've given first, second, third, fifth, and sixth away.
Let me just check. First, second, third, fifth, sixth, the fourth away. Yeah.
So I think this would take the final spot in the relegation playoffs, in my opinion.
Uh,
Fourth would it be?
you've already given
Would it,
fourth.
I've already given fourth, have I?
Yeah, you gave
Uh,
it to Slimy.
oh right, okay. Have I got any in the top six left?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Uh,
Encore. Then in that case, I judged it based on merits primarily beforehand. But no, I do think that Encore is definitely going to make it. However, based on previous predictions, I'm going to put him at the top of just the cutoff at
cut off
seventh. Then
seventh. Okay.
sorry, Encore. I do believe in you, and I do believe in Polytoad, but it is what I've already predicted.
He is speaking it into existence. Um, I am going to put it. Let me just see what I haven't put as well. I'm actually losing track of this as well. I'm going to put him third, which I think is high praise, but um, just judging his how well he knows the game and obviously quite a strong VGC player. I think if he's able to sort of pick up how draft league works like pretty quickly, he's going to be one to really watch out for. And I think it's going to put a lot of people on notice. So yeah, I'm gonna throw him in third position.
That's the only thing which I would have said is inexperience in draft. However, his experience in previous gens, I think Encore was telling me that they'd played quite well in Sun and Moon and stuff like that. So there are a lot of abilities which they're going to be quite acclimatized to. I think they are definitely going to be a dark horse to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. Okie dokie, on to our next team then, and it is the return of Mr. Draco and his brand new team name, which is Quaxley Hotspur Pokemon Club. So before we get going there, we'll say welcome back to Draco.
Welcome back indeed.
It's very nice to have him back. Unfortunately, with him dropping midpoint last season, he's has taken up relegation in the Championship this season, so he's got to work his way back to Premier Division, but we'll see if he's able to make it back at the first time of asking. The two in the two genies is sort of the thing that I first see. I know nothing about Enamorous at all, other than it gets contrary.
I don't know too much about it either, to be honest. All I know is that is sort of what Draco really needed and wanted in his team. I'm assuming that we're going to see something like what's the move called where you drop the special attack, the electric one, with Sunrise
Eerie Impulse.
Eerie Impulse. I'm expecting something like an Eerie Impulse into that, into the contrary, and then just buffing up its special attack.
Yeah, and just letting it just go ham.
Letting it go crazy. I mean, it's very fast. Its special attack stats are pretty crazy. At 135.
Yeah.
Also gets 115 in attack. I'm not sure if it's move pool, like it's very new to me, but I'm excited to see what it does this season.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got some Pokemon that we've seen a lot of in the past in the league as well. We know the strength of Typhlosion, Tapu Lele as well, and I think Duraludon, just having that mon that's not afflicted by Follow Me there is really useful. And as we've already said about Steel Dragon type and only having that ground fighting type weakness really puts Duraludon in a strong position. Obviously, Beedrill's Mega is crazy good, gets adaptability. So you're getting that. I believe it's 2 times boost to stab moves instead of 1.5 times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and Lopunny as well, which also gets access to a Mega, gets the normal fighting type, but I believe gets a bit of a speed boost as well. Lopunny gets some very, very strong support moves, so you've got a really, really good sort of variation of support and attacking prowess and both your Genies, your Tapu Lele. Scarf on your Typhlosion there with Eruption can really catch people out in the right scenario.
Or Rock Slide, as you'll remember last season.
Flashbacks.
Typhlosion definitely showed its power last season, which is why it got bumped up to B tier.
Yeah.
So we're expecting good things from that this season, especially.
Yeah. I think that the main thing I will say is that HP and defensively wise things. I mean, I think Dusko and Pichu kind of bring down the HP stat quite phenomenally. But the base defense stat isn't amazing. I think that potentially could be a problem. But you've got a good variation of speeds. You've obviously got Tailwind. Thundurus gets Tailwind, right? It does get Tailwind.
It does.
It does. Yeah. Thundurus.
Yeah, let me just check. Sorry. Yeah, no, it doesn't get
It doesn't.
tailwind. No,
Yeah,
no.
I always forget that it doesn't, and then just immediately go to the fact that it does. But Beedrill does get tailwind. If not, Beedrill is quite a fast Pokemon, so you've got access to tailwind there. Um, and he's got that psychic terrain on Tapu Lele, which is going to put a stop to things like Fake Out and things. Obviously, Anaris Thundurus can still be affected by that Fake Out, but his other mons are reasonably safe to that. I think potentially Lele next to Typhlosion could be quite a scary duo. Thivo as well, I quite like that pick. It is a bit like a budget Persian Lola without the Fake Out, but is a really, not quite as bulky defensively. It obviously doesn't get rattled, but gets the same amount of status and sort of stat drop moves, so it can be a really big nuisance with Snarl and Foul Play and things. So I really do like that pick. If we take a look at the type matchups here as well, as like, again, a bit like Haysod, you've got only one red and it's 4 in rock and only the one resistant and the rest neutral. That's probably the only downside to it. I would like to think, that
There's a lot of really well thought out teams this season. I must
Yeah,
say before we comment on it, it's scary to be honest.
absolutely. People have put a lot of thought into sort of the balancing of their teams, which is really, really nice to see. And yeah, I really do like this team a lot. I think Draco's going to do reasonably well with it. Where we sort of expecting Draco to do on his return.
Well, I mean, it's a shame that I've already rated everyone else so high. So one thing which I will say about, primarily because you picked up on it, there are a lot of physical teams at the moment, and like you said, he isn't physically defensive strong. So it will be interesting to see what happens there. I would love to see Draco getting that promotion. I think Draco is definitely a strong contender. However, I'm going to be true to my previous predictions and keep them there at the moment. I'm going to put Draco at 8th, unless we agree that we can shift things around. But no, I'm going to put Draco in 8th. I believe you need Draco. You're going to prove me wrong, but I'm going to stick to that for now. However, realistically, I do think that Draco, if I forget what I've already previously guessed, I would put Draco at probably around 4th or 5th, to be honest.
4th, 5th, okay. Yeah, I think I do like this team. As we said there about the sort of the defensive weakness, I think that could be a bit of a major issue. I believe in Draco, and again, just like Jabber, I really want him to prove me wrong and make playoffs, as we'd love to see him make those relegation playoffs and potentially come back up to the Premier Division, back to that promised land. Unfortunately, I'm going to say just to miss out, just barely in 7th, just pip Jabber at that 7th spot. I think potentially the team could get stronger in the mid-season trades, and that could sort of give him the swing to sort of make playoffs. But just at current point, I would put him there. But yeah, again, would very much like to see prove me wrong, Draco. So we will certainly see. On to our next team then. It is the Sacramento Skull Bunny, Dicey.
Oh, let's have a look at this team. Oh, scary. Zero R right off the bat.
You've got 2 really good S tiers there, and you've got 2 high tier picks three high tier picks that can mega and get a very scary mega. T-Tar, Garchomp, and Scizor. All with unbelievably insane physical attack stats. Especially Garchomp, I want to say its mega gets 170 base attack.
I know it's very strong.
Yeah,
I wouldn't really be able to tell you the exact stats, to be honest.
It gets reasonably good special attack as well. You've also got Bulu as well there, so you've got the grassy terrain, which is really good for sort of health restoration, and Alchemy as well, which is a really, really good support Pokemon alongside Pidgeot as well, which can mega, and you've got a really fast Pokemon that can tailwind. Yeah, I mean, again, stat-wise across the board, there's a really, really good sort of mix. You've got really high sort of physical attack. You've got good defenses, your special and physical defense, and some good speeds there as well.
There are some good speeds there, like you said. It's a very heavy-hitting team. I mean, it's also got the fastest fake-out user in the game, I believe, with Zeraora.
Yeah.
So unless you've got something like Psychic Terrain or you're ready for the Protect, it gives him a free Tailwind there, from his Pidgeot, Venomoth, without having a Prankster Pokemon there.
Mm-hmm.
Or even the Trick Room, like with Giraffe, Rig, and Jellicent. So it will be interesting. My sort of concerns with this team, to be honest, I'm not sure really what I would have with concerns with this team. It is very interesting. I do feel like his trick room may not be the strongest, so I don't understand why it's there unless I'm missing something with the speed control.
There's Jellicent there, which obviously is quite a bulky Pokemon. Got really high HP stat. So that would be, I think, his main trick room set. I believe Girafarig also gets trick room.
It does,
You've got inner focus in there, which is really nice to have on a trick room setter.
Oh yeah, I missed that ability. Yeah, normal psychic as well.
Water absorb as well, which is going to be really nice, and Volt absorb on Zeraora, Zeraora gets a Plasma Fist, which turn all normal type moves into electric type moves. So you've got some potential for shenanigans there as well. I think the main thing for me, and I don't think it maybe doesn't have a major sort of takeaway in the team, but there's your three main heavy hitters there in Tita, Garchomp, Scizor. I know Zeraora there as well, but Scizor, Garchomp, Tita all have 4 times weaknesses. Don't have a whole lot of weaknesses as a whole, but having that 4 times there on your 3 biggest threats, I think
hitters, yeah,
is a bit, and Bulu as well, which is obviously quite a big threat, has that 4 times weakness to poison. That would be my main thing I would be a bit afraid of if I was Dicey. Outside of the wrong weather, or you just get caught out, you're not expecting a certain type of move on a Pokemon, could be problematic. I will say that I don't think too many of the heavy hitters work like ridiculously well in Trick Room. Obviously T-Tard does, but otherwise
it's getting that set up.
Yeah, it's getting that set up first. Yeah, as you said, you do have like the fastest fake out mon in the game. I don't see any follow me. I think Venomoth gets Rage Powder, but obviously
Rage Powder on Venomoth, yeah.
You've got, if someone brings safety goggles expecting that, then it kind of negates that threat.
Yeah, there's not too much in terms of redirection. I mean, I know Girafarig, Rapidash get Ally Switch, Rage Powder from Venomoth, but those are all on the lower picks on the tiers, if I'm not mistaken. So you got Girafarig. Oh yeah, all 3 of them are D tiers.
Yes.
So all of their redirects are D tiers. It's not to say that D tiers won't necessarily be useful in the game, but how likely is it that they're going to be bringing a D tier, in strong contention a lot of the time?
Every game. There seems sort of like niche picks for certain scenarios, I think. But I mean, in terms of low tier, Alchemy is a very, very strong low tier pick, so that's really nice to see. And as I said, like in terms of the matchup, there's only really, you've got ground, which is quite a big weakness. And rock type, you've only got the 1 resist in Garchomp, which may be a bit of an issue, but I think sort of your heavy hitters are so strong that some of these neutrals into certain typings aren't a crazy problem. So I think Dicey's got a very, very strong team. Again, comes pretty highly recommended from Kirky. So I'm expecting big things from Mr. Dicey. Where are we expecting the Looney Tunes team to finish up this season?
It is a very strong team. However, it does concern me with the 4x weakness on all of their big hitters.
Yes.
So I'm going to say that Dicey, I'm hoping they prove me wrong, but I'm going to put them just outside the relegation playoffs brackets. I'm gonna go with 8th on this one, to be honest.
That's where you put Draco.
Oh no! Because I said Draco will show me wrong. You know what? I'm hating this ranking system primarily because there's so many good teams.
I know. It makes it really hard to do, doesn't it?
It does make it hard. Dicey, I believe in you. However, unfortunately, on this occasion, you are the weakest link. Goodbye. You're 9th.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to put him 9th. Like I said, that is a really big concern of mine. So I think unless they can overcome that, they will struggle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sort of agree, more or less the same. The 4 times weakness thing I could see. I mean, it is draft, so the potential for different varieties of berries and ways around those weaknesses. I'm sure Dicey's got a few tricks up his sleeve to sort of get around them. That being said, I do see it as a bit of a problem. I said I don't know too much about Dicey to know how good of a player he is. Only that sort of what Kirky's told me. So I'm going to go with 9th as well. Obviously, we're getting towards that bottom half where we've predicted quite a few teams to finish quite highly. But as Dogzie has rightly said, it's so difficult to predict where people are going to finish. There's only maybe 2 or 3 teams that I can sort of with confidence say are going to be in and around first to third. Otherwise, it's like I think every team could potentially be good enough to get in that
To be
top
honest.
six. It's just,
Yeah, I agree. I
it's
agree,
it's
definitely.
it's
That's
it's going to just come down to how people play. And I think one good thing that I think we should do is maybe come back at the mid-season point, see where people are, and then try and see how much we've eaten our words, or see where we can predict people to sort of finish out the season. But anyway, that's a problem for in the future. Let's look at our next team then. It is the Sky Strikers and Ted. This seems very, very, very interesting. As it went for the Basque Legion, so and there's not been too many of the Hisuians picked up in the championship, but Basque Legion with that with adaptability could be really, really strong for Ted, and of course Melmetal as well. Melmetal such a strong pick for Ted's team. This thing gets, if he's able to get that trick room going with something like a Rangaroo, he's in a really, really good spot. And of course, a Rangaroo with that instruct,
yeah.
instruct move. You've potentially got two double Iron Fists going off in the same turn, and with Melmoth having such high physical attack, defense and HP, it can be a bit of a nightmare to deal with. I really, really like just the general overall balance in the team. It's a little bit low on the Spadef side, I will say, and the team overall is a bit slow. Obviously, you've got
Slow.
You've got Prankster Tailwind on macro there, which isn't too bad. But I think we were saying this while picks were going off about macro and why it got dropped the tier for this season is it doesn't really do a lot outside of those support moves. Obviously, it's got reasonably high attack and special attack, but not sort of good enough to be coming as an attacking threat. It's going to be doing those support moves primarily. Your Prankster Quash, Tailwind, and things. Which the Quash is very nice to have, but the team being overly slow is a bit of an issue. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, Prankster Tailwind's always nice to have, but aside from that, macro doesn't do much. I know it's got Prankster Perish Song, which is very memey, but aside from that, I don't see it doing too much, to be honest.
No, and I think he's got a good variation on abilities where you've got a lot of synergy there, and you've got a lot of really useful abilities. You've got Storm Drain on Cradley, so you've got that covered to keep things like your Blaziken kicking around. Beast Boost on Zergadry, you let Zergadry run wild a little bit too long and that thing can get a bit terrifying. You got Intim on your Granbull, Define on Tempo, on Perugly. Obviously you've got Togepi as well. We saw Dr. Dave using Togepi quite well last season in the Premier Division. So he still gets Follow Me and just loses that flying type, and so that's really nice to have. And Skuntank as well. Skuntank's a really strong support Pokemon, so you've got really good supports. There's not a whole lot of your heavy hitters. I said outside of your Melmetal, Basque Legion, Blaziken.
But Blaziken's very frail, I'd say. I know it's very fast, but it's very frail. Similarly with I don't know much about Basque Legion. Melmetal is like a tank. It will be very hard to take down, and it will hit hard. Again, it needs a trick room. I think it is a very interesting team, like you said. There are a lot of dynamics to it, but I think it's going to be a very unique team against different matchups. I'm not sure how well it will fare in the overall season, if I'm being completely honest with you, though.
Yeah. I think Ted has put together a strong team. I would say maybe overly support heavy, a little bit like Jabba's team. And Mega Blaziken is a really a strong Mega, but as you said, it is quite frail. Don't know too much about Basque Legion to sort of say about it, but I think that could be a really interesting pick for Ted.
I mean, Mold Breaker is such a good ability. I know it negates things like when you got Shedinjas coming out, if that's a concern. However, I don't know enough about its move pool. I know it hits very hard. But aside from that, I don't know, to be honest. So...
it's going to pair really well with Cradley in that regards. Well, having Mold Breaker, you're not going to activate your own Storm Drain if you use a water move as well. So,
definitely.
So that's really nice to have. Bit of a ground weakness going on, and Steel as well as it's not a red, but Steel. There's quite a few Steel weaknesses there. But overall, again, like we said with all the teams, they've been put together so well that there's. People seem to have really thought out the sort of spread on the teams so that there's no overarching weaknesses. yeah, I expect Ted to do really well. Obviously, we've got to that bottom end, so we're not not able to predict Ted too highly here. Obviously, Ted I think had a really good season last season and just missed out on relegation playoffs, unfortunately. Well, I'm sorry, he made relegation playoffs, but just missed out on promotion, losing out
The Dave, was it?
he lost
The
to
Daves.
Dave, and then in the last chance saloon game did lose to Doctor Dave as well. So. He started off really well last season and sort of tapered off. So I would hope that doesn't happen again for Ted. So that would be that was in the back of my mind when we started picking teams. I sort of knew a bit about Ted's team, that potentially Ted as a player it might maybe let him down, sort of in the latter half of the season. But that being said, I think again like all the teams and as me and Dogsy have said, to not take anything to heart. It's really difficult to put anyone anywhere outside of the top six. Just unfortunately, 12 don't go into six slots.
And remember, it's a draft league, so anything can happen.
Absolutely.
Anything can happen. On that point, in terms of my prediction, like I said, you mentioned it was very support heavy. I would like to see interesting things from Mel Metal. Mel Metal, I think, will be an MVP for Ted. However, unfortunately, I don't see Ted quite making relegation playoffs, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have to unfortunately predict Ted at 10th.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's more or less where I'm gonna put him at as well, 10th place. Again, I think he's more than good enough of a player to make playoffs. But yeah, as we said about the sort of support heaviness, I think if he can get around that, if he can sort of make everything gel together well, then I think we've really got a team on our hands, and Mel Metal can certainly go crazy if he's able to consistently get Trick Room off. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if that happens, Mel Metal is going to go crazy, and it will be scary to see what Ted does this season.
Exactly. So next up, we have got a certain Dogzie and his Shadow Kings.
So
a bit like the ice type team earlier. There's a bit of a running theme going on here.
Mono
normal type. So I mean, this is a good opportunity for me to just sort of ask what made you go with the mono normal type team. Did you just want to go for something a bit gimmicky, or was this?
I did to be honest, because one of my as I'm sure you're more aware than many here are. I started playing competitive this year.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a few regionals and I found myself be doing relatively well. Not quite at the top tier levels, but relatively well. Draft, I sort of struggle when it comes to team building. So I thought, why not come up with something a bit mimicky, but try and also have a bit of a spread on it. So I thought normal's interesting, got a wide range of move pool, just single type weaknesses. Obviously, Zoroark Hisui was introduced into the game, which negated, the fighting weakness there as well.
And obviously resists normal as well, which is so great. Yeah, I think Zoroark Hisui is a really good, and just the team in general. You've not got a whole lot of dual typing, but the ones that there is, I think, are really good. Obviously, in DD Female having that psychic terrain, it's going to negate that fake out threat. And obviously you've got the potential for expanding force spam. I'm not too sure if Werdia gets expanding force.
Extra Sentry and another psychic move, not expanding force though, unfortunately.
But all the same, that Psychic Edge is going to buff psychic moves, and obviously, as we said, expanding force on the DD Female is going to really do the work. And you've got Follow Me support there as well.
However, I'm going to put my hands down and admit why I chose mono normal.
Okay.
So as you know, my favorite Pokemon is Ditto.
I was just getting to that. Yeah, about Ditto. Yeah. The first, obviously, there's some really strong Pokemon there. As we said about the Zoroark Hisui, Porygon 2 as well is really strong. Not only really good support Pokemon to set up Trick Room because it's got such good defenses with Eviolite, but if you get the right download boost, can also be a really strong special attacking threat. And you've also got Kangaskhan, which has that potential for Mega. If you don't Mega it, you've got Scrappy, so you can hit those Ghost types with normal type moves. If you do then decide to Mega it, you obviously get Parental Bond, so you get that double hit. Really good Pokemon to have. You've got Fletchling as well, which obviously gets priority Tailwind if there's no Fake Out on the other side. So of course that could be really useful to have. And we've seen Silly running Fletchling a few times and just know how amusing this thing could be. But yeah, the Ditto, I think the Ditto just sort of, where obviously you've got a bit of a run if we go down to the weaknesses, a bit of a fighting type weakness. I think it's fair to say, just ever slightly. But I mean, ghost types, they aren't touching you.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of immunity to ghost types, except the actually even the Zoroark has the immunity. So that's nice. However, to be honest, like I said, it is a gimmicky team. I'm just doing it for fun this season.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm hoping that I can have some interesting wins. It's a very strong team, I would say that.
No, it is
very heavy hitting.
Ditto is really great because you could, if it is situational, but if you're able to switch it in at the right moment and copy an opponent's Pokemon and we've seen how good Quick Claw can be for yourself, or you can obviously run Choice Scarf. That can be a really good asset in itself, and the ability to switch it in and out and change form is really, really great. So I think that really just sort of ties the team together in a little bow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there is the obvious weakness, which is obviously why I do have concerns with my team. It's got a very heavy, strong fighting weakness.
Yeah, but that can be played around with, obviously, with switching around Zoroark and berries and things like that. I think like defensively, physically maybe not so much, but especially there's a decent amount of special defense. Again, I think Fletchling kind of brings those defensive stats down a little bit. But there's a good amount of speed. Obviously, the team's got a good Trick Room mode. So you've got Ordino, which can Mega, and that thing is an absolute bulky monster. So that can work really, really well. And as we said earlier, the Tailwind on the Fletchling as well is really nice to have. So we don't really need to go over the type matchup screen too much. It's already pretty obvious. There's a bit of a fighting type wins, but I won't ask you to predict where you're going to finish. Obviously, we're running out a bit of slots. I think the team has definitely got the potential to get a few wins here, and I know Dogzie well that I think he could more than comfortably make playoffs. Even with it being monotype and it being a bit gimmicky, as we said about the other monotype team and Matrix's monotype team last season, that this monotype it makes your opponents sometimes overthink, and that can really work to your advantage. So, I think everyone in this league is capable of making top 6. But unfortunately, I think monotype and that fighting type weakness might be where the sort of major overarching thing lets it down and being a little bit one-dimensional. So unfortunately, Dogzie, I'm going to slot you in at 11th place.
To be honest, I think 11th is quite generous. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, if it wasn't for the quality of players we had this season, I would probably be arguing with you right now. But I think 11th place is generous.
It's pretty good, yeah. On to our final team then. It is Silver and his Tyranitar Tyrants then. Silver's obviously this is Silver's 3rd season. He had a really good start in Premier Division when he first joined, and then went on one of the craziest losing runs I've ever seen. And then ended up being relegated just purely on alphabetical order. He tied for head-to-head and everything else. It came down to the final sort of deciding factor, which was alphabetical. And yeah, I think when we made our predictions at the start of last season, we thought Silver was going to be one of the few to come straight back up. I think we said the same about Oma. And it just didn't really work out for him very well. I think Silver tried to be a bit gimmicky too often and just didn't quite work out for him. So obviously he's our final team, so that's obviously going to factor into why I've put him in last place.
To be honest, I agree. It is a very gimmicky team.
Yeah, and that's not to shit on Silver's ability. I think considering he's not really played draft before, nor has he played doubles, I think he's made quite a lot of progress in the last 2 seasons as a player, and his singles sort of strats that you see have caught a lot of people out. So, and yeah, it is a very gimmicky team. He's got a lot of mons on there that he's very, very used to. Your Executor Lola, Ferrothorn, Diancie, which he's had in the past.
Cottony is another win.
Yeah, he's obviously got the Prankster Tailwind there. Very, very high physical defense and special defense, obviously helped out a little bit by Shuckle. The team is very slow. Obviously, it does have Tailwind in the Latios, which can mega, and we said about the Cottony as well, but it's got Trick Room on the Alolan Executor, and of course Dusclops as well, which I think is the main. It's going to be the main Trick Room setter here. That Dusclops with Eviolite is going to be so bulky, and could definitely do some shenanigans. What are your thoughts on the team overall, Dogsy?
I think it's a very Silver-like team, if I'm being honest. Like you said,
Yeah,
he's using a lot of
absolutely.
Pokemon which he's comfortable with. Silver is actually a very good singles player. I've never beaten Silver before in singles. However, I think he's still trying to find his sort of position in VGC or doubles, and I think that will let him down this season. He's got a lot of strong weaknesses across the board. So whereas we discussed earlier, a lot of players had considered, resistances.
Yeah, there's some
He's
big
got the weakness
ones
to
there.
Bug, Dark, Fairy, and then the bigger ones, Fire, Flying,
and Rock, yeah,
Ghost.
really big ones. And Ghost especially, he's got absolutely zero resist, which is, I think, it's going to be a major letdown for him. But I can absolutely see Silver nicking a few wins here and there. He's definitely good enough to do so, and some of those strats you mentioned, I think will catch some players off guard, and that's how he got a lot of wins in his first season here. And that's not a detract from Silver's ability. He got them wins entirely on merit, because
Definitely.
he made those strats work. Very, very surprised to see no artillery, but I think maybe it was in his plans and it got sniped from him. I don't know.
Potentially.
That's the only thing I will say. Yeah, as I said, in terms of predictions, I'm going to put Silver in last place, but I hate repeating myself. I do think everyone here is of good enough ability to make playoffs. So again, Silver, would love to see you prove me wrong and have a much better season than you had last season. Dogsy, where were you going to put him, but obviously there's only one place you're putting.
But for the time being, unfortunately, I agree with you. Like I said, I'm hoping that Silver does prove us wrong. However, I think he's going to have to hit that bottom spot for now.
Yeah.
But I think with a lot of prep, Silver could be a dark horse. Let's see.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, that is going to do it for our championship team previews for this season. I just want to give a quick shout out to Dogsy and thank you for running through those teams and thank you for your time. It's much appreciated.
I appreciate you having me. It's always good to see your insight.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously best of luck to Dogsy this season with his normal monotype team. We've got another video coming up later this week. We'll be running through the Premiership Premier Division teams. We will have AA Ron, Mr. T Marshall back for that one. And those should be coming out at some point this week. But that is going to do it for today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed watching that, and yeah, we will see you on the next one. You can catch the first episode of the British Pokemon League show season 5 next Monday, the 4th of July, and the first British Pokemon League Championship show will be live on Wednesday, the 6th of July. So we will see you there for then. I have been your host, Matt Star. Goodbye and good night. Mwah.